and welcome to this week's episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy.
Thank you for joining us. This episode is sponsored by BTS. Well, hold on before you get excited. Not the Bangtan Boys. No, not that BTS. But the people at the Back to School Association. They just wanted to remind you that in case you didn't already know, summer is over and it's time for you to take your ass back to school.
Ooh. Okay. It's a little harsh.
For what? BTS?
Yeah, it's a little harsh for BTS.
You think people should be excited about summer being over and returning to school? Whether
Is
you're
it
in the
weird that I was
teaching,
that kid who was?
somehow that does not surprise me. Is it that weird that I was not that kid?
It's definitely not weird.
I mean, does it surprise you that I was not that kid?
No, not at all. It does not surprise me one bit.
Um, so, but speaking of back to school, I think this is the perfect episode, the perfect week. We discussed the penultimate season of our one of our favorite shows, Never Have I Ever. The show focuses on Indian American teenager Devi Vishkumar as she simultaneously navigates her way through high school and the grief and trauma of losing her father. So, Tammy, what did you think of season three of Never Have I Ever? Was it a teenage dream or a teenage wasteland?
Oh, you, Eddie, your concepts are always hilarious. I, I will say one thing I really, really like about this show is every season I feel like there is character growth and character development of one of the major characters of the show. And for season three, it did not disappoint. Like, still, we see the character growth, especially for the three main characters of the show and how they've grown as they've gone through high school, especially Paxton being in his senior year. So it was very enjoyable, just like I've, just as I enjoyed season one and season two. And of course, we'll get into the details. But I will say the one positive thing about it is the character development and growth within the show every single year.
I agree. That was one of the things I truly, truly loved, and I wrote that down too. Um, I, I think it's a true journey, a true maturation. It shows that maturation of of people. You're not the same person as a freshman. Hopefully, you're not the same person as a freshman that you are going to be or that you are as a senior, unless you're Trent. And in some ways, I'm
Oh, Trent
thinking,
grew. Trent grew. Don't
and
get
that's
into
what
my
I'm
Trent.
saying. And then that's what I'm saying is like even Trent grew. You may not see it, but I love Trent. Let me just go ahead before we even get into it. Let me just go ahead and say two things. A, I love Trent, and B, last week I was mistaken. This is actually the second to last season. So next year, senior year, will be their final season. But what did you think? I liked. Okay, let's start off. Paxton, what did you think?
About which part, like just him as a whole, as a character?
Yeah, as a whole, like in
Um,
general, his
I
growth,
will
his character
say,
arc.
I will say that I grew to really like Paxton this season. I am a little biased. If you do not know what I mean, definitely go and listen to the season one episode and season two episode that we've done. But I am a little biased. It took me a longer time to really see the worth of Paxton. But I think this season, seeing how much he grew as a senior in high school and knew, like, okay, I'm going into the world. There are some decisions that I'm going to have to make. I was so excited when he made it into college. Like, I was just like, oh my God, that's great. Because he was a fucking idiot when the seasons first started. But he was like a dumb jock. He was a dumb jock character, and I hate those characters. I hate those characters. Another reason why, kind of on a side note, why this season of season four of All American, I really started to like JJ more, because you saw that there was more to JJ than just being like the party dude that all the time. So the same thing is with Paxton. Like, even as I saw, he kind of he kind of brushed off certain things because everything has always come easy to him, and he was willing to acknowledge that at the end with his speech. Um, you really got to see, you know, he got into college. He was very proud of himself because for once he saw himself as something other than just being a pretty face. And that was a great thing. Even if some people never changed their mindset of him, he started to see himself as more. And I think that's when and I think what really helped him was being around Debbie and her friends and Ben. I think being around Ben, even as they still won't consider each other to be like actual friends, but I think they have grown a lot with every single scene or major storyline that they've been in together. I think that's a great I don't want to say attribute, that's not the right word, but I can't think of another word right now, of the show, is how even as they're kind of like enemies when it comes to love, um that there's still a lot of growth when they're in scenes together. I'm talking about Ben and Paxton.
Yeah. And I, I I've been biased. I like Ben, and I've always been honest. I like Ben. I just never thought Ben should be in game. I still don't. That has not changed. Um, but I say that I like Paxton, and they did what I had hoped they would do from season one. Is they showed that there was more there. Like, and I think you summed it up great. Um, I never thought Paxton was stupid. I thought he was lazy because he never really had to try at anything. He was always the pretty or the cute jock, and we know that they get the popular kid, the most popular kid in the school, so we know that they get away with a lot from behavior to not only through their peers and classmates, but also from teachers. Um, so he's always been excused. And Davy, being around Davy, that challenged him to want to do better, to actually apply himself. And also, um, you're right, he and Ben are the perfect frenemies. I think aside now, if it hadn't been that they're in love with the same girl, I don't think they ever would have really been um, friends. But just because of that and the situations that they've been in, they've developed a good friendship. And they're not necessarily enemies, but they, they, and I like that it was realistic that they acknowledged that, hey, we in the outside of the situation, we wouldn't be friends, but we don't necessarily have to hate each other either. So I thought it was really cool how Paxton helped him out this season. That was a solid. That one was funny, but I loved how we did get to see Paxton and Davy together this year. What that would look like. But I also don't think we saw. I hate that we didn't get to see it in a real situation because it was two things that hit me about that relationship. Um, and I loved when they broke up, when Paxton told her, how do you expect me to really love you or like you when you don't like yourself? And it's like she would never give him a chance to be her reality. She always kept him in as this dream, and she was the one who never thought she was good enough for him, and she was the one who could never see what he saw in her. And I really like that, and I kind of like the growth spiral that, or the growth journey that sent her on. And I love how they were subtle about it, the subtle about the changes, and you kind of saw her become more confident in herself and just think better of herself. And you saw her also how she had learned from some of the things within that relationship, like some of the mistakes from that relationship. So I love that. And I also thought it hit home when he went up to her bedroom in that one scene, and he saw all the candles and everything. And he's like, well, why didn't you ever do this for me? And she's like, I always thought you would have thought it was weird or whatever. And he was like, no. And so it just kind of shows that, she never allowed herself to just really trust to be herself with him. And so at the end, when she told him, you were my dream, I was like, but you should have just let him be your reality and see where it goes. I don't know if it would have, how it would have ended. Um, I like the arc that the whole show took. So even when they broke up, I wasn't too disappointed. I just wish you would have gotten more of him, of her, allowing him to be her reality in that sense. But um, so I did actually like that. Did you? Were you? How did you feel about the relationship? Because I know you've never been Team Paxton.
Um, so we've always disagreed about this, but just going on some things that you said. I think in the end, nobody's going to be endgame. I think that in the end, it's going to be a little cliche on her choosing herself and just going off to college, to discover herself as an adult. That is what I ultimately think. But I think in high school, I think Debbie, like, she summed it up. I think she was very I thought it was a very real response in saying that he was her dream, because even as they were together, and Paxton ended up being a great guy. He really did end up being a great guy. But she fell for him based on his reputation, the same reputation that started to annoy him once, like, um, he got with her and started hanging with her and everything like that. But she fell for that dream image, and she acknowledged that at the end when she said, "You were my dream." I think that was very realistic of her. She was a very, very unpopular person. And I was talking to one of my friends who was extremely popular in high school, and she could not get it. She was just like, "This is ridiculous. Like, you're together, you like each other. Like, what's the problem? I don't understand. Like, why does she have such low self-esteem?" And I was just like, "You don't understand, because you were popular, you were well known." I was just like, it's different for people who have low self-esteem, is very unpopular, and then have been bullied or teased, especially when you're one of the smartest people. And so I think I really related to that whole journey of, I understand they had a connection. They really liked each other. He really liked her. But I get what she was saying when she said that he was a dream, that he wasn't her reality, that wasn't a reality, because it'll always go back to, oh, he slept with a lot of girls, I'm going to compare myself to that. That's just natural. That, especially for a teenager, it is natural. There's no way of shutting that off and just living in the moment because you're with the most popular dude in school. That that is crazy. Like, that is just, so I really understood, like, her low self-esteem. And when he said, how can I really be with you when you don't even like yourself? She's a teenage girl. And he never acknowledged her. She wasn't popular. She wasn't. I think this season, that was the one thing, is I don't think he really understood her situation. He had a lot of growth being with her, and she grew as well, but he wasn't the main part of her growth. I think he was an aspect of her growth, but he grew way more than she did being when they were together. And I love his growth, but I'm with her on, at the end of the day, Paxton's going to Arizona. I hope they actually do send him to school in Arizona and they don't try to, like, make him stay in California for her senior year. I do think that he needs to move on and go to college. And I love the fact that, he's going out of state. It is a party school though, but he's going out of state, which is going to be great. Um, so to see, like, who is she going to be without that dream boy near her? I kind of understood her growth. I think she grew even in acknowledging the fact that he was a dream, and that a lot of the thought process that she had when it came to him wasn't realistic based on their roles within high school.
I get that, and I get the whole acknowledgement of the dream. But there's this whole thing of self sabotage just as human beings. We have these dreams, but when we attain them, and so that's just kind of like, and I get it. I'm not saying
Oops,
that they
sorry.
should have stayed together. I'm not saying that they should have been together. Like I said, I think it was perfect. Everything that they said, everything that they acknowledged about it, but it comes to, like, it just begs the question. I get that she's young, she's in high school, and there's all, as long as you live, you should be growing and learning. So I get that, but it's just like, well, what are you going to do when your other dreams come true? What are you going to do about Princeton, or this or that? So
It's
that
a
was
different
one.
aspect though.
I know, but it still goes to that whole dream attainment thing. And your dream guy, when you get your dream guy. And like I said, I get it. I get it, but I think that it should have been, and maybe because she liked him so much, but I don't know. But you did see the growth. Her next aspect. Now, the one that I really, really loved, and I hate that it ended the way it did. I love Des. I didn't think I would like Des, but I loved Des. And Ben said it perfectly when he was talking to Paxton about Des. He was the perfect combination of Ben and Paxton. And I was like, yeah, I see it. And I really, really liked them together. Hated his mom, hated that it ended the way it did, but it was also very realistic in the fact that parents interfere in their children's relationships and make them end relationships with people who they don't deem appropriate. And you got that. And I hated that he was a coward about it, about ending it, but that was also very realistic too, in the way that it just happened. So, what did you think about Des?
Oh, I'll agree with you. I love Des. Full in agreement on him being the perfect combo of Paxton and Ben. Like, if there was someone I really truly felt like she should be with,
It's Des.
it's Des. Like, it is Des. Like, he hit every single point. Everything she wanted in a boy, Des had everything. He was smart. He was dedicated to his academics. He got early enrollment to Stanford. He was cute. Like, one of my favorite scenes is when she's talking about like how he's gonna be a nerd and ugly and all of this. And then Fab is like, well, I see an Indian boy, but he doesn't look like a nerd. And she turns around and everybody's like, damn. Like, he was so cute. And I knew it. Like, me and my friend, like, we were watching it together and we knew it. Like, when she kept talking about it, I was just like, I bet you he's gonna be a really good looking Indian dude. Like, he's gonna be extremely good looking, very smart Indian boy. And she was just like, well, definitely, like, he has to be. So when they showed him, she was just like, yeah, he's real good looking. And she don't do like, she really isn't about like that whole she's not normally attracted to like men from other communities, but she was just like, oh no, I can acknowledge like he's a really good looking dude. I was just like, exactly, like he had everything. Very typical teenager. When he said, but she still pays my phone bill.
Yes, I
I
was
was
like,
just like,
oh girl, like
I was
he ain't
like,
going against his mama because of that
I
phone.
was like, that's very, very true. Which also is the reason why, even though I think he was perfect for her, um, you realize he's not for her though. Because when it came down to it, he wasn't willing to like, talk to his mom about it. Even when his mom was saying all that stuff about Debbie, and he was like, oh, she's not like that. Like, he would say that, but then the more his mom kept talking and being forceful about it, he started to shut up. Not that he ever agreed with his mother, because I didn't see that he agreed with his mom at all, but it's his mom. She's raising him by herself. So, and that is the culture. Like, that is the culture. Like, your family opinions is very, very important. So I did understand, but he was like, if I had to choose out of the three of them, I'm sorry, I'm throwing Ben to the side. It would be Des
Yeah,
all the way.
yeah, like during that whole thing with Des, it was like I said, okay, now and in my and when her and Paxton broke up, I kind of knew, especially after the scene at the party, that they weren't going to get back together, and I was okay with that. Like I said, I loved just how it became, how it was truly a true friendship, and you get that there will always be those underlying feelings there, that whole first love thing. But I loved it. I loved how they kind of fast forwarded through the awkwardness, how we got that time jump in time. John McEnroe was like, normally we would show you the seasons for this time jump, but we're in Southern California, they don't have seasons. um so I loved how we got that, and it was basically a year later when she met Des, and she was still a little bit like, I don't want him to think I don't want Paxton to think I'm still hung up on him, but it still hurt seeing him with someone else. So I just love the whole realism of that. But yeah, even I was like, okay, if she cannot be with Paxton, if Paxton's not it, and when her and Paxton broke up, I kind of figured, well, it might be Ben. But then after that, I was all Team Des. I was like, okay, and I was just like, ah, damn. But yeah, Des was it. Yeah, I love Des. Um, I I like now. I like I said, I've always acknowledged I like Ben. I've just always thought she and Ben were better friends. And one of the reasons that confirmed what one of the things that I said, at least for me, or reconfirmed my idea of it. Like I've always admitted I'm very open to the possibility that Ben will be in game. But the time that they grew the most um, is when they were apart. Like he if he's with if he had been with Davy, he's not going to, I liked Ben and Margot. I think by last season we understood that Anissa and Ben were not it. I actually really, really liked him with Margot. I think like he and Davy challenge each other academically. Um, and they are the best of friends. And I love that. I love their friendship that they have. I love that. But as far as romantically, I still don't see it. Like the way, the different ways that Paxton challenged her, she never got that with Ben, and vice versa. The different ways that even Anissa, even though that relationship didn't quite work out, but the way Margot challenges him to see other things and different things, that so I'm still not quite sold on her and Ben as a couple. And I go back to, just because they hooked up at the end doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be a couple next year. And this season is actually the season where I was hoping we would get that cliche ending that you talked about, where she kind of just chose herself. So, what about you? What did you think? Were you happy? I know you were happy about her and Ben reconnecting.
So I'll say it like, okay, so um when I was watching it with my friend, so like I called her up and I was like, hey, I gotta watch Never Have I Ever. And she's like, oh my God, like I've always wanted to watch the show and I never did. And I'm like, okay, but I didn't tell her on purpose that it was in its third season because I didn't want to watch the first and second one again. So like we started and she was just like, wait, we finished like the first episode. She was just like, wait, what? Wait. I feel like I'm missing a lot. And I was just like, oh, this is the third season, my bad. And she was just like, well, now I ain't gonna watch the first and second. But like even we were having conversation throughout, and even she was excited about the ending scene, right? Because she saw the vibes through the whole, hadn't watched first season, hadn't watched second season, and still saw the vibes. Like she was just like, I feel like there's something there. Like I feel like, and I was just like, oh, they were kind of like really feeling each other. They were dating folk. And she was just like, yeah, like I got that. And even though she did like her and Paxton, and she was the one who she didn't get the whole low self-esteem thing, and the reason why her and Paxton didn't work. I don't I think Ben never got a true shot. And that's why I feel season 4 is going to give them a true shot. Now, I don't think that they're ultimately going to end up together because, first of all, they want to go to colleges across the country. And this ain't To All the Boys I've Loved, because I also don't think that would work out.
I don't know, long distance
I'm
never
not,
works out.
yeah, I'm not in agreement on long distance relationships. Especially when you're going away to college, you're changing yourself and becoming an adult. And it's just hard. But they did grow while they were apart, but they never had a shot on seeing what they could be together. Paxton and her had that shot. That's the reason why you could see the growth of her with Paxton, because they actually had that chance to actually show character development and growth together. Her and Ben never actually got that chance to grow together. The one thing I will say is that Ben is fully team Devi. And I think that I like the fact that he's connected to other people outside who's very different from her. But she's always been the one. And so even as I see the vibes of him, and it's the art girl Margot, is that who she is?
Yeah.
Okay, so even though I definitely saw the vibes of him and Margot together, and I liked, her helping him out and everything. I feel like she to me is like the Paxton for Ben. On Yes, he does need that growth, and Anissa was not it. That was not it. That was him kind of realizing who he was really in love with, and it wasn't Anissa. And the fact of Anissa was a placeholder. Let's just put it out there. So if him and Margot kind of try it out, that's great, because he needs that as well. Debbie already got it. Let him have that. But I'm still of the mindset that it's not only academics where the connections are. He is there for her 100%, dedicated to her 100%, loves her and calls her on her shit. Like, he makes her step up her game. And I think that with Paxton, she never stepped up her game because her whole idea was the image that everybody had of him, and she never got out of that bubble of him being the dream boy that everybody wanted, and she got him. And I think with Ben, he's the realistic choice. Like, yes, you want to sleep with the hot dude, you definitely do. Like, who doesn't want to sleep with the hot dude? But at the same time, realistically, you don't end up with that dude.
That's
you
not true. And
you
and I'm sorry. Go ahead. Like,
realistically, majority of the time, you don't end up with the hot dude. You end up with the person that's been there for you the whole entire time, you connect with on a different level, who's not the dream boy. That's a dream. And I think Ben is just Ben is reality. Ben is reality. Paxton is great, and I think they'd be great friends. I think they'll be fantastic friends. I just don't see it. So that's the reason why I'm all for seeing what her and Ben can be in season 4. I don't think they're going to last in season 4 because her and Paxton didn't last. So I think that ultimately they're going to end up being really, really great friends. I do think that they're going to end up being really great friends, and I would be okay with that. But Ben needs his shot as well, because Paxton had his shot, and now it's Ben's chance.
I I agree with everything you said, except having that one person who sees you, who understands you. It doesn't have to be romantic. And again, their chemistry. I'm not denying their chemistry, or like I said, as best friend material. I just don't see, and they do challenge each other, but I don't see them being romantic. And you kind of hit the head on the note on the nose of what I'm trying to say about Paxton is he was reality. She never allowed that to be reality. She
Which makes the
never
point.
allowed, and I'm not saying it would have lasted, but so we could still go around and round. I get what you're saying, but just because Paxton has a shot doesn't mean Ben has to have a shot as something else other than what he is. Like I
What?
said,
Wait, hold on.
it doesn't
Really? On a
really.
teenage show?
I mean, I get that we're getting it. I understand that. Like I said, I'm not disappointed with it because to me, we've met in game. Like I was good. Once we got to Dez, I'm like, okay, game over. We don't have to go back to Ben. We don't have to go back to Paxton. I want Dez. So I guess I'm a convert to Team Dez. But I get it. I get why we're going to see what her relationship is like with Ben.
Also, can I just say, she chose Ben. She chose Ben. She was persuaded to pick Paxton. But we have to go back where she chose Ben. That is where she was from the jump. Her friends is what pushed her to Paxton's side, where she was just like, yeah, you're right. Like, I mean, he's hot. Like, who wouldn't choose him? Who would choose Ben over Paxton? Like, I just want to put that out there. On when she had a choice and she really broke it down, she chose Ben. Her friends were the ones who changed her mind to pick Paxton, but her heart chose Ben from the jump. I just want to put that out there. I'm very passionate about Ben. I just want to put that out there. Her heart chose Ben in the beginning.
Okay.
But let's go on to some of the friends.
Yeah, like I said,
Because
neither one of
that
our minds are going to change. I still don't think Ben is in game. I think he is that guy
neither
that
one of them
is,
is though. Des
yeah,
is. Let's can we agree that Des is
hopefully if they have any sense. But I think Ben is like the perfect best friend. But that's just me, and my opinion hasn't changed over 3 seasons. Okay, um, so like I said, we're gonna talk Trent and Eleanor, the most ridiculous, lovable couple ever. They balanced each other. They are so both so over the top and extreme and way too much, but they make absolute perfect sense.
they're a
Am I
TV
wrong?
couple.
Huh?
I think it's absolutely ridiculous. But then I think that Trent's ridiculous. I love Trent, but he's ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
And
Ridiculous.
Eleanor, but with Eleanor more, I'm just like, gosh darn it! Like you're about to be seniors, and I feel like I would say I think Eleanor had the least growth out of the three friends. Um, she's like I still see her as when we were first introduced to her in season one. Now them being together, I'm like, sure, then I don't really have to like. I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess I'll agree with you on what you said. I just they're insignificant to me. Like it's cute, but it's too ridiculous that I just kind of is like, okay, and we move on. Like it made me laugh, but more Trent made me laugh than Eleanor. Like it was never Eleanor that made me laugh. It was Trent that made me laugh, whether he was with her or not. So the character of Trent I love, but Eleanor is a definite miss for me.
I think her being with Trent made her more likable. I'll agree with you that she's proud, especially this season. I think she's had some really great storylines, but I think they kind of, because of her character, I don't know whether it's being so flighty, but I feel like they really kind of dropped the ball. Like the whole thing with her mom, um, and the thing when she had the emotionally abusive boyfriend, you know, um, it was like, yeah, you had really great opportunities to tell really good stories with that character. And you can still have her have these moments. Like, we get that she's the actress and she kind of lives in her own little world of acting, and, she's really creative and all of that kind of stuff. But there are times when the real world does penetrate that bubble. And those times that they had to give her that growth, to allow her to tell really significant stories. And I think because of her character, if they would have followed through on those stories and told them correctly, or told them differently, I'm not going to say correctly, but told them differently, I think we would have seen the growth within that character while still allowing her to be kind of flighty, and she can have these aha moments and still be true to the character. Just because you have those moments of realism doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to change you, um, just however you are. Just doesn't mean that it has to necessarily just change her into this completely different person. So I agree with you about having the least amount of growth with that character. But I still think her and Trent, they make perfect sense for who they are, and like you said, they're great TV characters. They're the great archetypes of the best of the nutty, flighty, crazy best friends. Um, and that's also kind of how I knew Paxton was going to have to grow after season one, because you can't have two of those characters. And like I said, with Trent, it's legit. He's just dumb as a box of rocks. He's just as dumb as his beautifully long hair. But there's always something a little bit more underneath with Paxton. So I do like Trent and Eleanor. Um, and I loved, it was so cute how Trent was like when Paxton first got into college. I think the first one he got into was Cal State Fullerton, and Trent was already on Google or Waze or whatever mapping out the drive. He goes, "Oh, it's just an hour," and then when he got into Arizona State, Trent goes, So will you be commuting? And Paxton just kind of looked at him like, and that's also because Paxton really started to realize, like, I love him to death, but my best friend is dumb as fuck. He was like, no, dude, it's in Arizona, so yeah, I'll probably have to move.
But he didn't say, he said that because he had the really realization that he was going to lose his best friend,
Oh
more
yeah,
than really thinking like, oh, when he said, oh, so you're going to be commuting, because he's just like, no, you're going to go to college in California so we can still be together, like it's me and you for life. And when
yeah,
he's all like, he got into Arizona, he was just like, yeah, so you driving there every day, right? Like,
yeah,
like, because it's me and you for life. Like, how you gonna move out of state and leave me here? Like, what's up with that? So,
yeah. And it was also really cute when he was like, okay, so I have to take something of yours, and you have to take something of mine. And he took like his swimming warming jacket and his boots, and then he gave him his hat. And it's like, Trent never was without that hat, so it was really significant. And then I was thinking, I was like, and then the realistic in me is like, oh God, that is so gross. Like all the sweat. But yeah, so I was like, and Trent basically told him like, don't you go there and get another best friend. So I really like that. What did you think about Fabiola and all of her love interests, Eve, Anissa, and Addison?
I thought her and Addison was fantastic. I really like that because I think like it's they had an automatic connection. Like I think when it came to Eve, like for the last 2 seasons, they had to really work at building that connection, right? And learning how to, I guess, change for each other to like certain things that they liked. I think with Anissa, and it goes back to when you're a teenager, you're just trying to figure out who you are. And I think that's ultimately what her and Anissa was, is them like kind of figuring out who they are and what they like. Because I think she realized the type of girl that she likes because of Anissa. How like she really connected with Anissa, they got along, but ultimately that wasn't like, it didn't bring excitement to her. So and then with Anissa, that was just her exploring. Like everybody was like, okay, so like she's gay now. And I was like, no. And they were like, but she like just kissed her. And I was just like, and she's a teenager. So she probably, like, as she said, it was exciting. It was in the moment. It happened. And we don't know. Maybe she is a lesbian. Maybe she's bisexual. Or maybe she realized that she really likes boys only. Like, we don't know. That is what it means to be a teenager and figuring out who you are and who you're attracted to. So I would hope a lot of people would kind of get that message rather than just focusing on trying to put Anissa into a box automatically because of that one kiss. Because I don't see them as they actually got together ever. But Fab and Addison, I'm all for it. I would love to see more of that in. And then also, here's the thing: if Fab and Addison are together, right, that means Des got to come back around, right?
Because he and Addison are besties.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, that means we ain't seen the last of Des. I'm just
Um.
saying.
Yeah. Gosh, I hope not. I. I had a different take. I mean, I agree with you, but I got it. I had a different take. Eve was that first love, that first girlfriend, her first when she realized that she was indeed gay. And I think it was also teaching her how to be in a relationship, that it does take compromise. Ultimately, it's like, okay, my life can't be just about science and robots. I do kind of have to, and Eve, they did get to the point where they realized, hey, you can still like all your science and robots, and I can still like doing the things I do, and we can be together, and we can be there to support each other. So, and when she moved to Korea, she tried that ridiculous. Now that was ridiculous long distance, and I'm glad that it did not take them long to realize that that definitely was not going to work, even in this technology age. Anissa. I think that was a rebound for both of them. The kiss was something I didn't even read too much into it. I agree with everything you said about the labels and figuring out who she is. I never for once thought, oh, now she's a lesbian or now she's this or that. For me, I think it was Fab was lonely. They had this great connection and chemistry as friends, um, but Fab was giving Anissa what she needed at the time, and they kind of both misconstrued their friendship for something else. Um, there may have been this underlying attraction there. But the kiss came just it was one of those rebound things. It was just Fab said what she needed to hear it at that time. She just had this fight with Ben, who was being a shit boyfriend, who she knew was in love with another girl. So it's like she realized she was that placeholder, and Fab was there in that moment to lift her up and let her know, yeah, she is good enough. You do have someone who supports you. I'll go to your games. I'll do all that. So I think they kind of just, it was what it was for the moment. And they both realized that, hey, because whenever they tried to reconnect, it was just like it wasn't there. And they both realized that, hey, we are better off as friends. And, and I don't even know if I would put stock into judging anything about Anissa's sexuality into that relationship. I hope we do see Anissa a little bit more, and maybe we will get the chance to see if she explores now or explores later or whatever. But and you're right. At this age, a lot of kids now they don't take stock in it. You love who you love, and it's like they don't put a lot of labels on it, especially when they are so young. So um, I was like, I appreciated, the way that was probably the most mature relationship on the show. The way they were together. But I did love when Fab called Ben out on his bullshit and told him what everyone needed to tell him, that he was an elitist, he was a narcissist, um, and that he's just. I hate that part of Ben's personality. He can. I think they go over the top with that sometimes, with him being that asshole. Um, and I love when they humanize him more. And I love towards the end of the season where he did take a step back, and he was still Ben, but he wasn't as much. He wasn't that asshole. And I think that was also part of the turnoff I had with Ben. One of the things I didn't like about him still doesn't change, the whole in game conversation, but I really do like the character more that he is not that asshole. He's still snarky. He's still a bit of a curmudgeon, but he's not just full on asshole. And I can appreciate that. Um, what about what did you think about Grandma? I love Grandma. Grandma Patty, she's a G. I love her.
No, but
You didn't like Grandma?
no,
Oh, I
I
like
didn't like.
Grandma.
I look. I'm gonna be honest, and this is my Americanism coming out. Um, Step off your family's lives. Like, let them be happy. Um, how your generation did it and how y'all were arranged to be married, and you ended up falling in love with the person that you were matched with. That's fantastic. But I bet you if you talk to majority of the women who had arranged marriages, that is not necessarily how it goes. Majority of them, when they are put into an arranged marriage, they've never met their husband, and until the day they get married, or all of that, that is not necessarily how it goes. You grow to love a person, because what else are you going to do? Like, but I think it was very realistic when she talked about the grandfather and how he never had money, so she was the one who had to learn how to stretch it. But how she was with her that would be her granddaughter, yeah, because that was her Debbie's cousin. How she was with the granddaughter and Manish, and I'm just like, and how she talked about it like he was a bum on the street, and I was like, you do realize this dude has a full-time job as a teacher, right? Like, he got benefits. He in California, like he got benefits. He's a teacher, like he has a job. But granted, he's not a doctor or a lawyer or an astronaut who's been into space. But she wasn't hearing her granddaughter, Davi's cousin, when she was talking about, and the fact of saying like, this woman is extremely smart. Like, she's in her program at, is it Caltech that she goes to?
Yep, the MIT of the
Yeah,
West.
yeah, she goes to Caltech. She's like in one of the top science programs in the country. And it's kind of like she brushes over that and not realizes that what you wanted for your life is not necessarily, it just rubbed me the wrong way. And I do think, I'm gonna say it's because of me being an American. I'm gonna say that's my American mindset. On not on being put off on how she acted throughout the season, because she gave up the dude who did not support her career and kind of went on the fact of like he was going to let her have a career. I'm like, let her? Dude, you are nobody. Kind of thing. And she wasn't in love with him. She was just kind of doing it because that's just the thing you do in your culture. So I'm sorry, but the grandmother turned me off, and I am going to say, you know, I may be a little biased, and that's my American mindset. I'm going to acknowledge it. I'm going to acknowledge it's because I'm an American and I just don't agree with that kind of stuff, on the reason why she really turned me off on how she was.
I got it, and we kind of talked about when we talked about Miss Marvel and some of the cultural aspects and differences, and you kind of have the same opinion, and I get it. I understand why she was the way she was. Um, doesn't mean I agree with it, and I agree with you. I'm not of the arranged marriage mindset, and but I understood where she was coming from, especially when she was talking about the grandfather. And teachers, let's be honest, teachers don't make that much money compared to what they have to do, and especially in California with the cost of living. So I got, I also understood that, hey, it's like, but I can appreciate that she did come around to Manesh, and it was funny where she was talking about where he said, "Hey, I thought you liked me now." She's like, "I do. That's why I'm keeping it real," or something like that. And I was just like, "Oh, grandma." So I did like her, but I also liked how she came around and how they had the real conversation, and she was realizing that, hey, slowly but surely, old school meets new school. So she did learn to let off, but. When her cousin moved into what they called the weird Hollywood orphanage, I cracked up. Those kids were ridiculous. That was so funny to me. Like, I was just like, this is ridiculous, but it was funny. Um, so I liked her cousin. I like her cousin in Manesh. I love him. He's a cool teacher. And I love Grandma roasting him. That she's funny. Um, I love her mom, and I hope one of the things I hope to see next season is, um, you know, Davy's dad died when she was a freshman, so we're moving into um, her senior year, and I'm never gonna say what's enough time for someone to heal and be ready to move on from something like that. But just in the terms of TV, I hope that we do get a chance to see her mom dating again, or beginning to heal to the point where she's ready to begin dating again. Um, we saw it a little bit in last season, and Davy had a freak out, and she really liked the guy, but because Davy wasn't quite ready to see that, she ended it. So I hope we get a chance to see Mom have her own life. I really liked seeing her with her friend Dez's mom until Dez's mom turned out to be a complete asshole. So I liked her having friends and having her own life, and so I hope we get to see more of that, especially as we know that Davy will be going off to college. So I want to see the mom be more of a full woman instead of just a mom. I think in TV talk it's time. What about you?
Yeah. Mom definitely should be dating. I'm in agreement with that. And I love her cousin. Like, her cousin is like a good combo of being very, very independent and knowing what she wants, but also on the fact of like, being dedicated to her culture at the same time, like a great mix of that. So I think like I like her cousin. I like the fact that like she liked the teacher, and when he made the move to like be like, hey, like I thought we had a great time. Like, why didn't you ever call me? And she kind of went into it, and she was just like, okay, and gave it a shot, and really really liked him. And I think that was really really great on her, you know, just kind of falling for that, which is not the image that Indian moms want their kids to be with, because you want your daughter to marry, you know, a lawyer or a doctor or an astronaut, and he's just a regular old teacher. But yeah, I do think the mom, it's time for the mom to date. I never fully bought into the friendship that she had, because you saw from the beginning that it was kind of like Dez's mom was a little bit of a know-it-all, and Debbie's mom is, but she's more, I think she's more innocent in how that goes, because her whole world was her husband. And so when he died, it's kind of like, what do I do now? So her trying to figure it out. One reason why, like, it's crazy to me that she's never truly made friends. The grandmother just came over here and she already got her cliques, 3 different types of cliques. Um, but the mom it has not. So I would like to see her actually connect with individuals who um, are on her level. And I don't think that Dez's mom was. I think she was more of a know-it-all, a little bit arrogant in how she did it. Um, or maybe that was just how I saw her from the jump, because they kind of introduced her like this is a new type of medicine, but I just never bought into it. So it's kind of like she lived up to my expectations when she started talking down to Devi.
I in the beginning I saw that too, and then as it progressed, as they got to know each other, I was like, oh, okay, you know, that might be one of her character flaws, but I didn't necessarily, until you know you get to the point where you realize, because when they found out that Davy and Des were dating, she Dez's mom, I forgot her name. We'll just call her Nell because I think it was something close to that. She expected Davy's mom to play the heavy and say no and put an end to it. And when she didn't, she was really, really surprised. And so she was taking all the stuff she learned about Davy and confidence. So I really like the fact, I like what she represented to Davy's mom, a friend, a confidant, someone besides her family that she could talk to, someone being there for her. And I agree with you. I think, you know, it kind of showed us why she had never really made friends when she tried, when, you know, she was put off by just how rude the preschool and the pre-K moms and the kindergarten moms and those moms. So it was all about her work and her family. And then, you know, her husband died, and so now she has to kind of start over and build that. So I really kind of and so I hated the way that relationship ended for 2 reasons. I hated that it not only did Davy lose a great guy, but her mom lost a friend. Yeah, she had flaws, and I guess they became more apparent, like you said, when she was like, oh, that she thought of Davy's mom as a project, when she was, you know, when they kind of, I'm not going to say flip the script, because some of that was already there, but, you know, so I do hope she finds a genuine friend and a good relationship um, for next season. Okay, so before we wrap this up, what is something that you hope to see next season? We know Ben and Davy. So I mean, yeah, Ben and Davy. So besides Ben and Davy, what is
Don't
something
don't
else
don't
you
don't take away my joy. Um, I'm gonna be honest, that is really the main thing that I want to see. Besides the continued character development, I think that Davy has really really grown, and because so much has happened over the 3 seasons, we can focus on Paxton, because you can definitely just looking see the difference for Paxton. You can see the difference for other characters like Fab, who I think was another character that has really grown over 3 seasons. And with her, I think it's more subtle. I think with Debbie, it's more subtle on her growth. So seeing her grow more, she is a senior now, you know, and becoming a little bit more confident. Because I'm gonna tell you, the actress, she got a body and she cute. Like, girl. I be like, how are you not known with the outfits that you be wearing? how are you like just bypass with the outfits that you be wearing? But I'm gonna be honest. I want to see her and Ben actually be her and Ben without Paxton in the background. Um, because Paxton got it, and I want to see what they can do just based on how they've written relationships so far. And I think they've done a phenomenal job of writing realistic teenage relationships. They've added drama into it, but it's not over the top. Like I always think of like Riverdale, which has completely gone, left field, but on how it started off like a good concept and then it just fell into the teenage drama trope. And that's what a lot of shows that I watch, because I am a fan of teenage shows. And I think that they've done a great job of not falling into those tropes, and being more realistic on what it means to go through high school when you're not like the most popular person in the school. You're not well known. You're just a typical teenager going through high school, which I can relate to because that was me. I was that typical teenager. And so I definitely want to see that, but I want to see what her and Ben could be using that chemistry. They have chemistry. I want to see what that chemistry can turn into. I'm not saying for him to be endgame. I would love it because I love the end scene. I think that that brought a lot of excitement because she had a choice on who she was going to sleep with. Now, granted, I'm be honest. I don't think she actually sleeps with Ben. I'll just put it out there. I don't think they get that far. I don't think they ultimately sleep together. But if, based on the scene, we're supposed to think that they ultimately sleep together. But the only other person who got as close to her, feeling that, she can give up her virginity was her and Des. Um, and so that's the thing. Like it was more natural. So I want to see her and Ben naturally together. I do want to see her mom have more friends. And just see the development of her mom as she slowly starts to get better at her grief, dealing with her grief over losing the love of her life, her husband. Um, I love the cousin, so just keep the cousin as the cousin is. She's great. I I also am kind of like want to see like how Fab and Addison goes. I know like they're secondary characters and couple, but I'm more excited about what Addison and Fab can bring to the story than Trent and Eleanor can bring to the story and bring to the show. So those are just some things that. Oh, and I also want to see Paxton in college. I want Paxton in Arizona, but I want to see him in college. Just give me at least one episode. Who's going to voice him? They've never have they ever had an episode where Paxton gets a voice?
They did. I forgot who voiced Paxton.
Okay.
I want to say it was like the first season.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out.
It was the
But
one
yeah.
where they did. It may have been last season. The one about his grandfather.
Oh, okay, yeah. I remember that. I remember that. So yeah, so kind of seeing like how he deals with college, but I don't want him to. I think his time has moved on, and so I don't want him to necessarily be a main character in the show next season. I want it to be a natural progression. The show's really great at that. I do want to see that natural progression. But those are just some things that off the top of my head I can think of that I would love to see for the last season of the show.
Um, yeah, I like I said, I know her and Ben are going to be together at least for a little bit. So I'm interested to see how that will go. If there's something that can happen that will change my mind, that will make me, jump on Team Ben bandwagon. I never denied their chemistry. I just think it's a different type of chemistry. But I would like to see Paxton. I hope we are not done with Paxton as a character. If their time is over as a love interest, so be it. Um, I would perhaps maybe like to see Paxton find someone who he can truly have a real relationship with. If it is indeed, if the ship has truly sailed with him and Davy. I hope just selfishly that we do see more of Des. Um, Via Addison or what have you. I like I said, I hate the way that relationship ended. Just out of not going to rehash all of that, but as I said previously, I would definitely, even if it doesn't bring Des back into the fold, I would love to see more of Addison and Fabiola. And you're right, I could deal with more of Addison and Fabiola and less of Trent and Eleanor. Although I get why that may be hard because Trent, it's easier with Trent because he does go to the same school as Eleanor. But and I also hope that we're not done with Anissa. I would love to see more of Anissa too. Um,
Yes, I agree.
so, just I kind of spoke as we were going about the things that I would like to see. So my list at the end is not very long, just as I listed all throughout. And again, her cousin is great. Oh, I know one thing. And they kind of alluded to it when Grandma Patty told Manesh, hey, you need to learn more about your culture, and I'm going to be your tutor. I think that would be comic gold. I think it would be so hilarious to see at least one episode of Manish getting cultural tutoring from grandma. You cannot tell me that shit would not be funny.
Oh, I'm sure it would be after he like, pushed that woman down.
It would be so hilarious. So I would love to see it just at least one episode. Give me 5 minutes of grandma. Give me Manish Indian lessons on how to be a proper Indian man. That would be hilarious. So yeah, that's about it. Okay, before we wrap this up, what are you rating Never Have I Ever season 3?
I really enjoyed season 3 more than I thought, and I love the show overall. So I am going to give it a 3.75. I think that every episode added on to the story. And I don't feel that there was a dull moment necessarily for me. There can always be, added on some of the things that I want to see for season 4. I would like to see in order to continue to grow, but I think this show has gotten better every single season. For me, I've enjoyed it more every single season, and I know that I'm going to enjoy season 4 as well. So I am giving Never Have I Ever season 3 3.75. What about you, Eddie?
I'm giving it 4, and for the reasons I mentioned altogether. The writing, I love Mindy Kaling. The writing is fantastic. I think they did a really good job. I was pleasantly happy when I found out I was wrong, and this is not the last season that we do get one more. So, 4 popcorns for me. All right. Unless you have anything else, I think that does it for this week's episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. Got anything else?
No, I'm good.
All right. Please be sure to listen, like, follow, and comment wherever you stream your podcast. We are that local now. We are that local, that international now. So you can also keep up to date on the latest in entertainment and pop culture news, as well as other amazing kernels of pop culture goodness at the Popcorn Wind Down. And there has been a lot going on in the news, so be sure to check out the new layout of the Daily Wind Down. That's it. That's the plug. Pop, 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 pop. Just like they found those documents, I'm sure I'm going to find my sound effect.
Who giving it?
You. All right. Thank you as always, and be sure to join us next week when we discuss the K drama, Netflix's latest K drama, A Model Family. Um, I'll be interested to see what you think about it. So until next time, I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy. Bye.
Peace.